strength to support, the vision to lead. Welcome to the Keystone Initiative, where we speak with the leaders who act as the locking force for their organizations, the individuals who provide the strength to support and the vision to lead. Today's Keystone is Aaron Miller, and is a good friend, currently the Senior Director of Technical Solutions Resources at Palo Alto Networks in Denver, Colorado. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Victor. Thanks for having me.
So Aaron has been with Palo Alto Networks for about 10 years. Prior to that, he spent over 15 years at Avaya, and he is widely recognized in the industry as a thought leader and a speaker. Let's start with your foundation. You began your academic journey at Cornell University, studying operations research in engineering. How did that highly analytical foundation prepare you for the pivot into IT, cyber, technical sales leadership role?
Yeah, great question, Victor. First off, I will say it's a very humbling experience to attend a university like Cornell. I came in there thinking I was, pretty big chicken in the hen house, ready to, show everyone my swagger and how smart I was. I got humbled very quickly. So it was a tremendous experience for me, not just academically, but from a growth perspective. In terms of really understanding the capacity, the talent of people that are out there. For me, I'll be very honest. I got into operations research because I had a knack for mathematics. I loved engineering. I loved math. Dare I say, kind of showing my nerdiness. I even enjoyed statistics, which is a lot of what operations research was. And the other thing is, now I'm kind of showing my age. At that point in time, there were like IT, even the basic of IT, the basic business of IT was very early stage, right? People didn't quite understand what that meant. Companies that were out there were not seen as IT as an enabler or a foundational differentiator. So I greatly appreciate the opportunity I was given to major in something that I would argue was almost like the bottom of the pyramid. It laid the foundation for me to move forward. I took some computer science. I took a lot of engineering, kind of primary courses, and it set me on a path that later in my career, when other doors were opened for me, I had the opportunity to pursue what ended up really becoming a computer science degree early on in my career.
Now it totally makes sense. Now that you actually walk me through about the nerdiness and the mathematical, now I understand why it's always about the numbers and stats with you. Now it totally connects the dots for me.
That's right.
And early in your career, you worked as ID manager as well, running a help desk call center. What foundational leadership lessons did you learn from managing a call center environment to today large technical solution consultants?
Sure. I will probably, this will be the first of the most likely several times I will come back to this, is answering the question of why. Why do we do what we do? Why does it matter to our end customers? Why, and many times, depending on where you are sitting within an organization, the end customers might actually be internal stakeholders. Okay. But answering the why, why we're doing what we're doing, why we're doing it in the way that we're doing it. Also, taking feedback. I'll be super candid, Victor. That was a real challenging part of my career. I was in my early 20s, and most of the people that worked for me were in their middle 40s, right? Sure. So I was the young buck. Who the hell is this guy? Thinks he's not trying to tell me what to do. Right. So really having a lot of empathy for understanding where people were coming from, where they were in their life, and trying to figure that out, as I was very early in my career trying to navigate that as well. But I always came back to, when I got pushback on team, we're going to try to improve this metric, or we want to start working in this way, or we want to collaborate with this other organization. Why are we doing that? And if you kind of address that up front, most will very quickly buy in.
So if I can double click on that one, what was one thing that you would teach upcoming leaders and managers and those who are still struggling with that challenge where they are young in their life, but they are at a senior manager role or leadership role, but at the same time, they have people who work for them who have been in the company for a decade or 2 decades or twice the age they are. What's one thing that really, you can call them patience or communication, what you just talked about? What's one thing really has to be there, otherwise it's going to be shaky?
Sure. There's a great movie by Christopher Nolan called Inception.
Oh, yes.
And this, again, I hope this comes out the right way. I'm not trying to sound, manipulative or anything like that in the way I think about it. But one of the things that, even if I have an idea in my mind on a change that we need to make, or a pivot in the organization, or or even just a better way of doing things to perhaps optimize a workflow or a process,
Yeah.
I tend not to come out banging the drum, hammering the gavel on, hey, here's what we're doing. This is why we're making this change and everything else. I like to come out, especially to your point, as a younger leader, working with people that maybe have been around and have a process and a well defined workflow. Hey, here's something I've been thinking about. Here's an observation I have. What do you guys think? Can you walk me through it? Is there something that I'm seeing incorrectly? Is my perception off? Walk me through why we do it this way, and lead them through, because here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that there might be an opportunity to fine tune this. There might be an opportunity for us to get rid of some of this work and
Right.
add incremental capacity, whatever the answer might be. So I try not to come out, even if I have some preconceived notion, I want to run it by the team and bounce it around and validate it before I come in a ball of fire, like WrestleMania, ripping off my
Right.
shirt and being like, hey, here's what we're doing. We're going to change the world. Walk into it, seek to understand,
Right.
validate that what I'm seeing is indeed what's happening, and then share some ideas, because people want to feel empowered. People don't want to feel like something's happening to them.
And they wanna be part of that idea as well, to your point, right? If I say don't think about elephant, you're thinking about elephant. So it's funny you mention it because my wife does that to me all the time. All the time.
Yes.
Because I think one way or I'm stuck on one way and she'll ask me questions. She knows where she wants me to go, but she'll ask me question this way. She'll help me eliminate all the bad ideas, and then whatever is the best, she knows it, I know it, and then that's what we're gonna come up to it. So I think that's important as a leader. That also comes with a lot of confidence, maturity, and patience. If you rush to it, and if you say that this is how we're gonna do it, it's gonna be you said so. If we all come up with that idea, we share the responsibility together. We win together, we lose together. That also brings your teams into that harmony, camaraderie, that we are coming to this idea together instead of just my boss said so. It's like how many times we have heard it. Well, my boss said so. Why are you doing it? My manager said so.
Yes.
Well, going through that with your manager, that exercise really helps you to understand why you're doing it so you can explain. Not only you can be bought into it.
100%. And I love the word, Victor, that you used there, harmony. That's a word you don't really hear quite often in corporate America anymore. Wow, anymore. I don't know if you ever did, quite honestly, but that
My
is
wife is French. She taught me that, by the way. So full credit to her.
that is a key word, and I really like that. I mean, I had a very similar instance, kind of back to modern day. About a year ago, I was responsible for the Majors SE team. We
Yeah.
brought the entire leadership team together. We had a dialogue about customer QBRs and
Mm-hmm.
kind of running this motion. And I'm telling you, we left that room very aligned as a collective team on, this makes sense, right? This is the right thing to do for our customers. It's the right thing to do for us. We want customers for life. And there was harmony in that conversation where we all had that buy-in and that belief that this wasn't something that, someone's, the man is telling us to do. It's something that collectively in that room agreed was the right thing for all of us.
So, Aaron, let me throw a curveball at you. Obviously, that's what my job is here today. If that's the idea and plan, and sometimes you're pressed against time, that happens a lot. I'm sure in your world as well. We just don't have time to collect everybody's feedback and bring them together. How would you still introduce that idea that don't think about elephant? It's still your idea that you're thinking about elephant. How would you bring that, but in a little bit more accelerated way, where you just don't have enough time to bring everybody on the same page, bring everybody's buy-in, and have that conclusion as collective? What would be your approach to that?
Great question. I'm going to land on a word here, and I'll start with that word. I think that comes down to trust. Okay.
Sure.
And I'll be super honest. This is a great example of something that I've struggled with. I often like to triangulate when I'm in my role. Sometimes someone from my team will call me. Hey, we have a challenge with insert problem statement. It could be a customer. It could be a product. It could be a
Yeah.
service motion.
Sure.
There's some kind of a problem, and I hear the person out. I believe them. I start with trust, but I like to triangulate. I like to talk to then the product person, and let's talk to the services person. Let's talk to somebody else that's in touch with the account, and ideally even with the customer, to really understand and build that cohesive view, because one person's perception is not always 100% Sure. Now, you're asking the question when I don't have that luxury, right? When I can't circle the wagon, so to speak, I don't have the
Right.
opportunity to say, hey, let's make sure we got our ducks in a row. A lot of it comes down to trust, and trust is a two-way thing. It comes down to trust on the person that's reaching out to me that might be asking me to, hey, I need you to ring a fire alarm. I need you to escalate this to a very senior level. Here's why. What is that person's track record? Do I trust them? Are they prone to hyperbole? Right? Are they someone that kind of makes a storm in a teacup per se? But then on the opposite side, when I make a decision and say, hey, I am going to escalate this,
Right.
I am take an action that might feel a little bit out of my comfort zone, I need to believe that the rest of the organization trusts me and
Right.
that I'm not somebody that's constantly crying wolf. Okay. If
Fair.
my reputation for the size of the team I lead, listen, I could text Nikesh daily and be like, I need your help. I
Right.
would be long lived in the company if that was my MO. Okay. I think you know that. So we need to be careful and guarded and respective of the time and priorities of our executives. When I engage an executive and when I ask for help, I am trusting the person that brought that to me, and I am also coming from a place of trust when I'm going to those senior levels to ask for help.
It's funny you mentioned that. During my army days, my CEO used to have this, you called it triangle. He used to call it circle of trust, where if you don't have time and sometimes you got a command really quickly and really fast, he would actually deputize that decision to three of or four of his lieutenants, where this is what we need to make it happen. Go talk to your two or three privates or the people on the ground and pretty much create a chain of trust. So CEO, four people, I need to make this happen. You are my four people I trust, and you trust me. We have that relationship. We're going to make it happen. Almost like a hierarchical, but that again goes back to harmony. You have that. You don't start that the day you need it. You have built already so that you can capitalize the day you actually need it. So you don't use that every time. Definitely invest the time for your people to know that you'll make the right decision. And if it is wrong decision, that is okay too. It's together. We're gonna cover. We have each other's back. So that's, I think, again, going back to the leadership traits. Don't start the day when you need it, continue to invest in it so that one day when you need it, it's ready. I want to talk about how you support your teams. At Palo Alto Networks, you took the role of SE director for sustaining systems engineering. You noted that this team's purpose was to bring lift to the field sales team, if you will. As a leader, how do you define bringing lift to those you support?
Great question. I think when I led that particular team, that was a really interesting job, kind of pushing my comfort around my boundaries, if you will. It was really three distinct groups or teams. And each of those distinct teams, I led consulting engineering
Okay.
in the time. So very technical, almost like Navy SEALs, helicopter in, help us get over a speed bump,
Sure.
do a great POV and kind of move out. I led a channel SE team around really driving scale within our channel community. And then
Mm-hmm.
also inside SEs that were responsible for kind of driving that lift and scale within the field in terms of kind of run rate demos, smaller opportunities. How do we make sure that we're giving the customer the attention required? I remember in that role, I felt like my head was on a swivel because every stakeholder I spoke to kind of had a different need or a
Sure.
different requirement. And when I think about what it means to provide lift and scale to the team, I think of it in two different categories. I think of it in terms of our customers. So how do we help our customers moving things forward is kind of how I define lift in the category of customer. Meaning years ago, we might have had a new update to advanced wildfire. We needed someone that had like PhD level knowledge of exactly how that machine learning engine worked to really face off with the customer and have a deep, deep dialogue. We
Sure.
had people that could have that conversation to go in and bring that knowledge and scale to the field and to allow those customers to move forward with their purchase. On the flip side, internally, from a lift and scale perspective, a lot of it is how do we help account managers? How do we help other SEs in terms of allowing them to prioritize on the things that only they can do, that
Right.
maybe delegate down some of the other tasks that we know need done that are good for the business, but isn't in the wheelhouse of that particular individual, i.e., channel enablement,
Right.
things doing kind of run rate demos. How do we get that inside SE community to drive that scale and capacity in that sense? So hopefully that gives you an idea of like what I meant and how I kind of perceive those two functions.
And let me dig deep into it. So, how does your leadership style change when you are mentoring and managing senior level experts? Like exactly what you said, PhD level versus early career engineers, maybe inside SC.
Sure. I think, first off, experts are experts for a reason, right? So I certainly bow to their academics, probably not the right way to say it, but their
Expertise.
expertise, right? Their expertise, their knowledge, their
Right.
experience in a certain area.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. What I have found on occasion is that there's a little bit of empathy sometimes for understanding some of the customers you are going to be speaking to. When you're a deep, deep expert, they might be coming from a very different place.
Sure.
Okay. And while an expert can go from A to B to F without going through C, D, and E, a lot of other people, okay, need to be kind of step through the thinking and the alphabet and everything else. So I'm constantly on the lookout for that when I deal with more senior level resources in terms of how they're navigating, how they're working with individuals, and do they have the patience, right? Depending on who they're working with to kind of walk that customer or internal stakeholder through the why, through the technology, et cetera.
So, right now, your focus is helping businesses navigating digital age, AI, all of that, and executing their strategies with confidence. That's what the role is. What is the most common structural crack or weakness you see in organizations today, which is could be AI gap, or it could be that back to foundations. It could be that they haven't changed the good old days of networking, even though the modes and means of networking has changed in past 2 decades. How do you advise them to fix it so without offending them in a way?
Sure. That's a great question. I think there's a little bit of, I'm a big fan of history across all spans, just, traditional history, military history, but I'm a huge fan of technology. And I think that there are tremendous lessons that we can learn and glean from, even for you and I, our relatively brief 20-year careers, when we can look back and remember what organization looked like in the enterprise.
Yes.
I mean, do you remember once upon a time, a lot of CIOs scoffed at the idea that I was going to bring my iPhone in and use that in work,
And
right? And
that now it's reality. Nobody bats an eye.
nobody bats an eye, right? And there were technologies that we thought were going to be huge in
Yeah.
enabling that functionality, like MDM, that went the way of the dinosaur. And then the transition to cloud. I think the transition to AI now is obviously another one of those seminal moments in our
Right.
industry. And quite honestly, I feel like a lot of the conversations that I have with CISOs and CIOs and senior level stakeholders, they're still getting to grips with it. And I welcome the opportunity to say, hey, where were you when your company went through a cloud transition? And maybe they weren't at the same company, maybe they were in a different role, but
Right.
taking them through and kind of reliving. Do you remember when someone said, hey, we're going to move to cloud? And I mean, you remember most banks were like, are you kidding me? We're never
Yeah.
doing data
Yeah.
sovereignty. I mean, there were all kinds of challenges, but the
Or even
benefit.
scarcity as well from vendors, right? Like those vendors who wanted you to stay on-prem physical spindle desk, they are like, well, cloud is bad, bad, bad. And now the reality is without cloud, you just can't function.
Correct. Yeah. And there have been many companies that have failed literally because they
Yes.
didn't make that pivot. I know I've competed with Cisco most of my life, but I will say John Chambers probably has one of the greatest quotes ever, which is you don't compete on features and products, you compete on market transitions.
Yes.
I think there's never been a truer thing said in business that is so
100%. Nokia, BlackBerry, great examples.
totally, totally. And that's something I think about all the time. And when I think about the needs of our customers right now, how rapidly we as a community within Palo Alto Networks need to educate ourselves, not just on, our products, but what's happening in the AI landscape overall.
Sure.
Is the market transitioning? How is the market responding? What's the impact on consumers, on the enterprise? There are a multitude of factors that come into play on that I'm constantly trying to think about. How do I make sure I'm up to speed on it so that I can help my customers navigate these changes?
So one of the topics that I always challenge my guest here is public speaking, public influence, because that's something not a whole lot of leaders, not those who are here already, for those who are still not ready to step out in the light, if you will. You're well recognized as an industry thought leader. During your time in Europe, you have provided keynote. Here in North America, you provide keynote addresses, white papers, PR interviews. Recently, you were at my tech summit delivering a keynote as well. So what drives a leader step outside the day-to-day and managing the escalations? What drives you to still step outside and deliver that public influence? Why are you still doing it? You're a well-established leader already. What makes you continue that streak, if you will, and deliver that public influence?
Sure. I wish I had some great high and mighty response here on, corporate and enterprise and good for customers and everything else. The reality, at least for me personally, is I am a believer in storytelling. And I mean that in the most genuine, heartfelt sense. I happen to have a lot of experience myself. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to live in Europe for 13 years in Western Pennsylvania. Man, you talk about a fish out of water. That was a tremendous opportunity and experience for me to learn a ton. I married a woman from Brazil. So, like, there's a lot that I have learned over my years that are cross cultural, and recognizing that there's a lot of differences in the way that different countries operate, the different companies operate, the different
Right.
cultures operate. However, there is absolutely a through line, and there's something that makes us all human in finding that narrative and being able to develop that story. And it tends, in my role, to develop that story around how technology is changing, the impact it's having on the market, on society, on us as consumers, and then how we as a company, and arguably even as a member of an industry, right? We are not just Palo Alto Networks. We are also a leader in the cybersecurity industry overall.
Right.
How are we responding to that? How are we trying to guide our customers on, where we think that's going to end up? Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do have a lot of experience. And for me, I love being that conduit, if you will,
Fair.
and hearing that story. Here's where we come from. Here's my take on it. Here's what I think it means for you. And then closing with that kind of guidance on, look, here's how you have the opportunity to be the hero in your own story, and kind of continue the narrative from there.
To be honest, Aaron, that's kind of the consistent theme with all the leaders who have been here. Why are you out in public speaking? And it's first is personal branding. That is the most important. How do people know who Aaron is? Well, by listening to podcasts and conversations like this. That's one. Second, how do I know how Aaron is thinking about technology or a particular topic? But again, listening from Aaron. And the third and the most important is, how do I influence to the masses where I can't personally reach? I can't mentor them by having conversations like this, where it can be more like on a record and you can play back, if you will. Anyways, we're going to move into our fireball segment. These are rapid fire. Please don't take that much time. High energy questions. Ready? Here we go. You have lived and worked in both London and Denver. Which city has the better tech scene?
London. Sorry to my Denver colleagues. London.
And that's okay. That's the whole point. What is one technology trend today that is completely overhyped?
Oh boy,
AI.
I'm telling you, I don't think it's AI. I don't know that AI is the one that's overhyped. You know what? I would say AI in pockets. If it's a rapid fire, I'll give you AI in pockets.
Okay. What is the most important soft skill for a systems engineer to develop?
I'll give two answers: empathy and curiosity.
It's funny, I think Justin Douglas had something similar as well. I asked him the exact same question, and then he said something along those lines as well. So I'm going to have to compare those two answers now.
Sure.
If you could go back to 1999, you were managing the IT help desk at Coors. What is one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
What it would be to appropriately challenge status quo. And what I mean by that, like process improvement. How do I get better? I think back then I was like, just do whatever my boss tells me to do,
Sure.
and not, and I use the word appropriately there. It doesn't need to be revolution. It can be evolution. How do I make the team slightly better? And I think that's something over many, many years I've learned to develop. I wish that I had thought through that much earlier in my time.
To be honest and to be fair to you, it comes with a little bit of the wisdom. I say wisdom, not the age, because hey, I'm old. It comes with the wisdom because then you're built to that sort of confidence. Then you've seen a little bit on the block, and you know what that means appropriate. You know it today. Back in the 1999, maybe you didn't know what that appropriate means. Go easy on yourself. That's what I'm saying.
Good point. I would agree.
Finally, in one word, what is the most critical trait of a Keystone leader?
I would say I'm going to go with curiosity again. I think in today's day and age, we hear the phrase growth mindset a lot.
Yeah,
And I think that curiosity is important because it ties into how do I improve my business? How do
sure.
I improve how do I optimize the time and by the way, the morale as well of the people working for me? How do I
Yeah.
make it easier so that we get better outcomes? But I also think curiosity ties into getting ahead of that curve. We talked about AI. Is it overhyped or not? That's, TBD. But for one thing's for damn sure, everyone's talking about it. And if you're burying your head in the sand, you're doing yourself a disservice. You have to be curious, understand how is it built? How does it work? Who are the leaders in this space? Where do we think we're going to be in 6 months, a year, 3 years, et cetera? Curiosity, I think, is the name of the game.
That brings us to the end of our session. Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. And for our listeners, stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victor. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Leadership isn't an accident. It's a choice. It's about being intentional rather than relying on luck. If you're on the path to inspire, to mentor, and to make the hard decisions, take your place at the top of the arch. Join the Keystone Initiative. Until next time.